Hello, everyone, and we are back for another episode of Market Bites, and I am joined by Neža Malk. Neža, how are you?
Morning, Sam. I'm doing well. I think that we always start the episodes with how busy we are. Even the weekends aren't weekends anymore, and we were just talking about all of the things that happened. I was explaining to Sam how big of a news was that Luka Doncic transferred from Dallas to LA to Lakers. So that's one of the big news besides the market news. And so
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
been busy days.
yeah, it really, really has, and I think that is massive news for any basketball fans out there. Let us know how you're feeling about that. I know it's not market related, but yeah, let us know. And at the back end of January, actually, whatever Monday was, third of February is when the UK transfer window closes. So there's always drama around that, the
Yeah.
football transfer window, and it made me think. Imagine if the only period that you could add new stocks to your portfolio or
Oof.
remove stocks to your portfolio was a 1 month period. Just how chaotic it would be on that last day. You've got to think, oh God, what am I going to do for the next year
Yeah.
and do this?
Yeah.
But
What is the best bet? What's going to perform the best?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I also wonder whether for some people, whether if they had to take a year-long view every single time before they can make another decision, whether they would actually perform better. It would actually be quite interesting to see because I think certainly newer traders, newer investors, when you have that period where a stock goes down 5% for whatever reason, stocks move like that, no problem. They panic, don't they? Think, oh God, I've got to get out now. It's
Yeah.
going to go lower. And you look in a year's time and it's done exactly what you kind of thought it would do. So, yeah, I thought it'd be quite interesting. But it would be a chaotic last sort of
It
few
would
hours as
be.
everyone's
Would be.
buying and selling and adding and closing positions. But luckily, that isn't the case. And we just have the normal chaotic, experience in markets. And, it was this time last week where I was saying to you, how did you feel about DeepSeek? And this week it's something else to discuss. But we started off last week by discussing what has already happened this year. So if people are listening to the podcast for the first ever time, or you're just new to markets, things that have happened this year, and I'm definitely going to forget things, but you've had the TikTok ban, you've had a Fed meeting where they paused, you've had central bank meetings from Bank of Canada where they decided to cut, you've got Bank of England, which is happening tomorrow, you've had, DeepSeek as well, you've had the inauguration. You've had Bitcoin above 100K, below 100K, down to low 90s, trading at 108. Everything has happened and more. It's been a very, very busy first month of the year. You wake up Monday, tariffs are the focus. Markets are down pretty heavy. How are you feeling? What are you doing? What are you looking at? What was your initial reaction?
I mean, I was not that surprised as I was with DeepSeek. He was talking about tariffs for such a long time. Even during his campaign, he was mentioning tariffs all the time. So for me, it was not such a big surprise, but market seemed like it heard it for the first time. Because tariffs that basically what he wanted to do is to put tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, and the market like worried as they heard it for the first time. And but at the end of the day, he decided to pause those tariffs on Mexico and Canada because they got some deal. I mean, Canada has to promise to increase their border security, and Mexico also sent like 10K soldiers to the border. So there is a pause, and market kind of relieved. But I mean, there is still a tariff on China imported goods, not as high as he actually was talking about. And China is already talking about what tariffs they will impose back. And I'm actually wondering what he will do with Europe and UK, because I mean, we are actually exporting more goods to the US than they are importing to the Europe. And he says that that's not fair and we will see more tariffs coming. So I'm really wondering what effect this will have. And I think that investors initially worried what kind of impact tariffs will have on different industries, which totally makes sense because I mean there are many different like pieces that we use for vehicles or maybe some gadgets for electronics that they import from other countries. So it makes sense that they worried how this will impact the consumers and also companies' earnings nevertheless. I saw some interesting infographics, by the way. I think that one of our analysts sent it to the group that about 7% of SP 500 companies will be directly affected by tariffs imposed to Mexico, China, and Canada. I think I'm for vote for three of them. And here they don't even count those indirect impacts. Because I think that at the end of the day, every company will somehow be impacted by this. And the main worry is how this will impact inflation and what the reaction will be. But I mean, I was really not that surprised. But the market reaction was crazy. I mean, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was sitting at the desk on Friday afternoon, and headlines were dropping. And actually, do you know what? I think there was a headline which said tariffs are going to be delayed by a month. Market pushed higher, right? This is Friday at some point. And then maybe 30, 40 minutes after that, the Bloombergs and your Reuters all came out and said, no, sorry, that's, a fake rumor, a fake headline. Tariffs are happening and they're going to happen on the beginning of February, blah, blah, blah. And markets really fell out of bed on Friday. So the sell-off was coming. And actually, it made me think, this is another reason why financial markets are going to have to be 24/7 because, imagine you're in a short-term position and you bought on Friday. Yes, you're going against the trend. Yes, it's a risky trade, blah, blah, blah. But it would have given you the opportunity to get out and not have to wait for a gap down on Monday to buy, buy out of that trade lower down or sell out of that trade lower down, I should say. So, it didn't shock me. The move. I mean, Trump is just he's classic, isn't he? With the whole, I'm going to do this. It's going to be massive, and then he comes to do it, and it's not big and it's not massive, and maybe that's his style, isn't it? Until it isn't, and that I guess would be the worry. But yeah, look, markets were significantly lower upon the open. The S&P 500 point was down 1.9%. The Nasdaq was down 2.4% before the S&P. Yeah, yesterday and the day before filled that gap. And Nasdaq yesterday was making highs of the days, and from the lows of DeepSeek, we actually almost got back down to that again on Monday.
Right.
That whole area acted as a bit of support, and markets are pushed higher. So people are still interested in buying the dip. To be fair, the EU is the worry, isn't it? I mean, he
Yeah.
stated, Donald Trump, the UK is out of line, but the EU is really out of line. So when he says things like that, you have to be a little bit worried. But yeah, like you said at the beginning, I think DeepSeek was a shock in terms of the market was not prepared for it. And then it takes time to digest it. The market recovers. This was not a shock, but the market recovered once, he sort of reeled back on a few things. So, I mean, I've got a question for you. I mean, if we think about long-term views on the markets, I think we can probably, have a good case to say we're pretty bullish on things. But, Neža, in 1 week time when we sit here and we discuss what's happened on the new weekend, on the new Monday, I mean, who knows? I honestly wouldn't be able to say here with any certainty to say whether we're going to be higher or lower than where we are
No.
now. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I feel totally the same. I think that it's impossible to say what we will be even talking about next week. I mean, we can kind of suspect which topics are going to be on our plate, but I'm sure that there's going to be some surprise, positive or negative, you never know. But I think that's why it's important to remind investors to keep long-term view.
Yeah.
That it's always good to keep a long-term view, because at the end of the day, markets go up on the long term and everything in between is just a buzz. It goes up and down, sideways, you never know. Those are the events that move the market, shake it on the short term. But in the end of the day, when you will take a look at the big picture, when you will zoom out, you won't even recognize those events. So I think it's important that we speak about them now because it's important for us in those days. But in the end of the day, in few years' time, maybe they won't even have such a big impact.
Yeah, and look, Trump signaled tariffs for months, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
he did.
should it be a massive shock to people? No. I guess the bearish perspective might be that people assume tariffs will just be a negotiation tactic, and then maybe if Trump does go fully committed at some point, then there's a little bit of a worry, and it's almost certain to weigh on growth, like you said, for some of those S&P 500 companies, let alone companies in other parts of the world. So there could also be a bit of geopolitical fallout from it. But at the moment, I guess it's a little bit better than some might have feared. But there's still that uncertainty, and markets do not like
Yeah.
uncertainty. Risk assets like crypto, Bitcoin, I mean, is trading now below 100K. I mean, they on Monday, I mean, some of the moves in Ethereum, in XRP, and Bitcoin were just staggering. I think it was the most monetary value ever lost on a day for crypto, which just goes to show how sensitive that is to liquidity and risk, and that correlation as well being a risk asset. I suppose on days like Monday, Neža, you're probably thankful that you're not a crypto trader.
I think that every crypto trader who is really into it, they expect days like this because for with crypto, you can basically expect every day to be 20% up or 20% down. And I saw some comparisons that Monday could compare with COVID drop. If I remember correctly, Ethereum was down about 20% midday, something like that. So those were huge numbers, especially for people like me who are not into crypto and are mostly in stocks. But either
Yeah.
way, even with earnings reports, you can see moves like that even with stocks.
Yeah, exactly. And just on some research around the tariffs, I just saw something, and it's from Bank, and they said we should not forget his campaign, Trump's campaign, promised to put 60% tariffs on Chinese imports, and only 1/6 of that has now been implemented. So that is the whole idea, and guess the bullish scenario, the bullish case is that he did. Say he's going to do it. He said it's going to be big, it's going to be massive, and it hasn't been big or massive. So therefore, the reaction might be a little bit limited, but is what it is. Let's move on now to our next subjects, and we're going to focus on earnings because it's been a really busy week again for earnings. I got back from the gym yesterday, and I went on X, like I'm always on X in the evenings, but just seeing the earnings come through, and I thought, wow, these are big companies. And then you had big companies earlier on in the day, and Monday as well. There's some big names. You got some big names coming out today, and for the rest of the week, certainly Thursday too. What were you most looking forward to if we go back to Monday for the week, and why was that on your radar?
I mean, I have a calendar of earnings open all the time because it's just hard to digest all of the things that are coming in. And obviously, X is place to be because it's overflooded with all the
Yeah.
data. Everything that comes in is instantly on X. But looking back on Monday, I was looking the most at Palantir for sure, but the big day for me was actually Tuesday, so yesterday, when PayPal reported
Yeah.
before opening, and also Spotify. Besides that, big pharma companies like Pfizer and Regeneron also reported before opening. And then after close, we had Alphabet and Snap. And that's just beginning of the week. That's only the reports that we already have. And we have some major names also coming in today and tomorrow. So it's nonstop. And for me, I mean, I was really looking at Palantir because of the
Yeah.
reaction. I think that you also did the trader talk about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, talked about it. It was finished. I think the day up yesterday, up about 24%. I think, or 23.99 if you want to be specific about it. But it's It's an incredible rise, isn't it? I think it's up something like 500% in recent times, and it's just going from strength to strength. And by the way, it needed a good report to go higher. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people were seeing this rise and be like, to keep going on, you need to keep, smashing expectations. And it did, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what I was looking at the data that really impressed investors, that surprised in a positive way. And I think that what really sparked this positive reaction was the fact that it started to grow its commercial business, that they saw this massive growth in commercial side, because otherwise they have lots of business with governments. So I think that this really sparked this positive reaction. But I saw one interesting fact. I mean, both earnings per share and revenue beat expectations, but revenue beat for like $39 million. And this sparked $39 billion rise in market cap. So I think these numbers are just not
They're
coming in
mind blowing.
together. It's crazy reaction. But I mean, they are still surprising market in the positive way, even though the valuation we could say that it's a bit high, but expectations are remaining even higher.
Yeah, I mean the forward guidance you mentioned was pretty good, wasn't it? I think the
Yeah.
market loved that, and it's tough, I guess, for some people that would have been saying, "Oh, I like Palantir. I'd love it to have a dip so I could buy," and then you just see it go 23%, and you're left there thinking, "Oh no!" But don't go chasing the market if you don't like it. If you think the value's too high and whatever, leave it alone. Just on for those people that maybe aren't already aware, some of the earnings that came out last night and yesterday. Spotify came out and they finished up quite nicely. Their first fully profitable year. Their CEO was speaking on X about it and is obviously very happy with that. Their users are just going in the right direction. Very, very good. Quarter 4. Palantir, we already mentioned. PayPal finished down
Yeah.
13%. To be honest, they actually beat on a few metrics. So I'm a little bit surprised at that reaction personally. AMD finished the day down 8%. Their chief executive forecasted decline in data center, which is a bit of a proxy for the chipmakers' revenue in the AI sector. Alphabet was down 7%, I think, or at
Yeah.
the time of sort of viewing or reading or listening, whatever you're doing. I wonder if for people that's an opportunity to buy the dip. I did a poll on eToro for people, so we'll check that out in a bit. And Snapchat rose. I mean, that's been beaten down over the last few years, has had a bit of a recovery. Users are up to 453 million. I have to be honest, I didn't think it would be that much, but it is.
Me neither.
Uh,
Me neither. I mean,
uh,
I'm not using the app anymore, but I see all of the younger generation
yeah,
using
younger gen.
Snap all the time.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? I mean, I remember someone said to me, who's a secondary school teacher, and he said, no one uses WhatsApp in school. And if you use WhatsApp, people think you're old. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, really? But maybe that is true. I don't know. I don't know. But big companies before the open, Neža, we got Uber, we got Walt Disney, you got Novo Nordisk, you got Toyota. Novo Nordisk, biggest company in Europe. Uber are doing quite well. Disney have been struggling a bit, haven't they? But it does look like
Yeah.
maybe they can turn things around. I wonder for some people out there if they think there's a bit of value. Ford and Qualcomm after the open. I suppose the biggest one left for the remainder of the week is going to be Amazon
For
on
sure.
Thursday. You would agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Amazon is last of the big companies left to report this week, and I think that everyone will be focusing on that. And I am also really looking forward to Eli Lilly and Novo because of
Mm.
all the weight loss drugs. I think that here we can also expect some of the interesting data to come out. But so far, I think that we got some pretty intense reactions this week so far because stocks that are reporting, companies that are reporting, some of them were up 10%, 24%, and some of them dropped like more than 10%. We saw PayPal and Alphabet that you already mentioned. But I before PayPal reported, I mean, they reported solid earnings. But obviously investors focused on one specific metric. It was like slowing branded checkout growth that spooked them,
Yeah.
and that's what caused this negative reaction. But something that I saw that was an immediate red flag for me was that the Jim Cramer said that he sees a potential in a company, that he believes in the CEO. So that was
Oh.
instantly something that, oh yeah, we might go lower.
Yeah, I mean that. Imagine you work your whole life and you get to a CEO position. You're really proud of your career, and then you see a tweet from Jim Cramer, and you think, "Oh no, what's it all been worth?"
Yeah,
Yeah, not ideal. I'm just looking at, and I'm sure people have heard of FinViz before. Great website. It shows like a map of
amazing
the day
website.
performance, 6 month, whatever. But it also has a section where it does the earnings day performance, and I'm just looking at the S&P 500 now, and it's a complete mix between red and green. Just looking at the Magnificent Seven, what we've had so far. Tesla finished up 2.8%. Okay, not bad. Meta up 1.5% on the day. Apple was pretty much flat, down 0.6. Microsoft was down 6%. Google, it looks like they're going to finish lower unless they have a 8% recovery. And then obviously Amazon, as you mentioned, are coming out on Thursday. And then Nvidia, have they got a date? Yes, they do. February the 26th. So that's going to be fascinating, isn't it? Especially after the DeepSeek stuff, and they're still obviously significantly lower from their high. Bring it
Yeah,
on. Bring
yeah,
it on.
definitely. I think that the market is mostly focusing on how much companies are currently spending on AI. So that is one of the big numbers that the market is looking for. And also, you mentioned Alphabet and Microsoft. They both the both companies' earnings were not that bad, but reaction was pretty negative with both of them. And it's both companies, the market was actually focusing on cloud growth, and
Yeah.
they both disappointed on this part. So this really spooked investors this time. And I think that it's all about AI and cloud right now. And basically, if you don't beat on this side, you can expect negative reaction.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm sitting here now as we wrap up the podcast, and I want to say, hopefully, we can have a nice quiet end to the week. And this time next week, we're not talking about any surprises, any Monday sell-offs, but you don't know, and there is that uncertainty out there, isn't there? But I suppose at least it makes it interesting, doesn't it, to talk
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to next week and see what we will be talking about.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But as always, Neža, thank you very much for joining, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you, and see you guys next week.
Take care.